And I believe that we are live now. Yes, takes a second to kick in. Still trying to figure this out. It's only my third time. There was a big break in between there. But I want to continue these weekend live sessions, or I want to make them weekend live sessions, just a casual guitar lesson. And for right now, I want to be going over modes. I just finished 2 10-week courses, which I had a class of about 4 or 5 students. And for both, we were just going over modes, what they are, how to use them. I did a live stream previous to this one that's up on the channel that covered what the modes are. I went over the 7 modes, so check that out if you haven't seen it. Today I'm going specifically over the Dorian mode, and we're just going to go a little more in depth. Hopefully it won't be super long. I'm going to try to keep it around 20 minutes or so. I don't want to tuck your ear off or anything like that. So let's get right into it. What do we have? The Dorian mode. So the Dorian mode is the second mode of the major scale, right? In the major scale, for example, if you take the G major scale, you have 7 notes, or any major scale. We're just working G for right now. Working G, it's going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G again, right? 7 notes. And as I said before, what the modes are is basically you start from the second note, because today we're just going over the second mode of the major scale. So we would start from A, right? And then so it has a different sound. These pop out more if you have a reference note, or you do it over specific harmony, like Dorian chord progressions, which I'm going to go over in a second. But that's when they start to come out or like pop out a little more, because each mode has like a distinct quality. They don't, even though you're using the same notes, they don't sound the same. So one thing I want to give you before I get going is, let me find this. I have a PDF with the mode that I'm using today. Well, it's going to be an A, but you can move this to any position that you want. And I'm going over some examples, because I think this works best, and I found that it has worked best with my students when I give them like real musical examples. So it's in the description box if you want to grab that PDF. I'm also going to drop it in the chat if you're watching. So just click that. It's a PDF, and that's going to be this one that I'm going over. I'll show you in just a second. This one right here. Here, let me try to keep that. So the first and second bar, and that obviously you can see Loud Love by Soundgarden. Really cool song. It's in Dorian. But we'll get to that in a second. But first, A Dorian. So we're going to use a different shape than the one I played initially, and it's going to be this one. Right? Again, these are the notes from the G major scale, but we're starting from A. Becomes our key center or root note, and everything functions on that, right? That A minor chord harmonized, right? A, C, E. So I like this position because it fits well with the pentatonic, and this is how I like to get my students started with the Dorian mode. Something that fits very easy, because something that I've noticed is that students might start they get this scale and they don't really know what to do with it, so they just end up running up and down the scale, which is fine. You just want to figure out the fingers and the pattern, and I'll let them do that. But that gets a little boring after a little while. So what you want to start doing is mixing it with the stuff that you already know. Most of us, know the minor pentatonic scale, which is like probably the most popular for guitar players. So if you start with this, just your regular pentatonic scale, and you start adding the notes from the Dorian scale, it's gonna be like an easy in to start getting that Dorian sound. So let's talk about Dorian before we start popping in that note. I don't want to just tell you, I want you to understand it. So as we know, the parent scale is G major. If we harmonize the second chord, it's A minor. So that's what this is gonna revolve around, an A minor chord, an A minor 7 chord, whatever you want. But that's gonna be your key center. So you're using the notes from that G major scale, but everything is revolving around this A minor. So what happens is that, for example, take like the super classic Dorian example is Carlos Santana, like Oye Como Va. I bring this one up all the time. It goes from A minor to D7 or D9, but either one would work, right? You don't normally get that if it was just an A minor progression, like a normal A minor. The 4 chord would be minor or minor 7, not a dominant chord. It wouldn't have a major third in there. So I like starting with this one because that is the biggest giveaway that the progression or the harmony is a Dorian progression if it's a minor 1 chord going to either a major 4 chord or a dominant 7 chord, and a 9 it's a dominant chord. It just has that extension on it, right? Because if we were in G, think about it for a second, it would be 2, 5. These are chords from the G major scale, but what helps us keep it as in Dorian and helps keep A minor as a key center is that we don't go to G. Otherwise, it would just be a 2-5-1, right? And then that gravitates towards 1. But we're not doing that. We're going. That's what we're doing. So, and then you can just use minor pentatonic over that, and that's gonna sound fine. It's gonna sound great. But what you can start doing is throwing in that major 6. So if we're in A Dorian, we're playing A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and A. So the note that's different than a minor scale is the 6. In a regular minor scale, you would have the F sharp would be an F natural, actually. Much more like somber feel or tone to it. And then if we raise that 6, the F to F sharp, that's the difference. Each mode has like a defining characteristic like that. For Dorian is a minor scale with a raised 6th, right? You would have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and 8. That's a minor scale. And then you get the 6 and you raise it, becomes major 6. So it's a minor scale with a major 6. And that's how I like to keep it simple, because the major and minor scale, or the first and the 6th modes, they're the most common. They're super typical. So if you learn those first, or maybe you already know those, you just have to keep those 2 in mind and just and all you have to do is adjust them. You don't have to do anything else. You just alter certain tones. So for this one, for example, we just change the 6th. We raise it, right? Like for next time, I'm going to do the Phrygian, it's going to be the 2. We flatten it, right? So it becomes a little more simple. Everything else stays the same. So that's what defines, that's what makes, I like to call it the money note. That's a money note in Dorian. So you have minor pentatonic. And if you start throwing in that major 6, that F sharp, you have it in 2 spots in this position. It's going to be on the 4th string, 4th fret. So what I do there is, you kind of get off position a little bit. And then it's going to be again on the 2nd string, 7th fret. So you have these 2. All I did is play the pentatonic and add that major 6th. So you get that extra note. It changes already. Already is going to sound super Dorian. So you're playing a Dorian progression. For example, this one starting with 2 chords. Very simple. You can start to play your pentatonic licks, whatever it is that you do, and maybe start throwing them. And start simple. Even if you're like using that one as a neighboring tone. Slide up, or maybe even, you ever do this on the tritone? Do it on the major 6 now to 7. To the flat 7. Right? Anything like that goes. Experiment with it. And this way, you can still think about it as pentatonic. So what I find happens with students that want to get into the modes, mostly they've been already playing blues, rock, and all that stuff, all the minor pentatonic stuff. What you don't want to do is start throwing everything out and just like, oh, there's this new scale, it's a new thing. No, keep everything that you're already doing. Just like start sprinkling Dorian on top. That's how I refer to it. Just kind of like sprinkle on top. Don't toss out anything. Just keep it there and just start throwing this out, right? And at first, don't even worry about the chords. Just try to work it into your licks. You know, maybe instead of going to the 5th, you start landing on that. Use it as a passing tone, neighboring tone, or a landing tone. Now, if you're going to start using it as a landing tone, what I find is really cool is if you land that on a major 4th. And I'll tell you why. Because if you have an A minor chord, let's just do the triad right now, A, C, E. Those notes are in the pentatonic, no problem. That's not the issue. When you get to this major 4, let's do a triad for right now. That major 6, F sharp, it's actually the 3rd of that major 4 chord, and it's always going to be. In this case, it's D, right? We have F sharp against D, right? That's our major 3rd, D, E, F sharp. So it's gonna sound super poppin' when you land, you know, if you start like with an A minor lick or, and then say D's coming, you land that F sharp against the chord D. It's very common to do. It's a really good way to really bring out, you're doing like 2 for 1. You're hitting the chord tone and you're doing Dorian all at the same time. If you were just thinking about chord tones, bring out the major 3rd, you didn't even really have to worry about the scale. Just worry about hitting that major 3rd over that major 4th chord. And that's what changes it. Because if it was a regular minor scale, it would be D minor, A minor, going to D minor, and then that F sharp would be F. Which you should keep that in the back of your mind because it's a very typical scale, and all you have to do is drop it down by a half step. So if you're not doing chord changes yet, or you want to get into that, when you go to the minor 4 chord in a regular minor progression, go to the minor 3rd, which it's that, in this case, it would be that F, you know, and here would be, you get it in 2 spots, right? Sorry. Right? 2 spots. So you can do the same thing. And especially when you're doing pentatonics, because neither of these notes are going to be in the pentatonic scale. So you can, that note is not in the pentatonic scale. It's a good way to bring out the harmony if you want to start like getting, you know, a little more harmony oriented rather than just like ripping on the pentatonic scale. So that's how that works. And let's just recap really quick. You have a minor 1 chord going off major 4. Now, progressions can get a little more intricate, if you want to call it that. And they're not always going to, obviously, one, they're not always going to be an A. And they're not always going to have just 2 chords. Like, that's just the one example of the Carlos Santana going from 1 to dominant or major 4, however you want to see it. What might happen, and I can think of another song, is Althea by the Grateful Dead. I believe it's by the Grateful Dead. Yes. That one is in B. And the chords are B minor, A major, E major, to A major. So it's using 3 chords, playing the A twice, right? And it's kind of like a halftime feel. So here we have 1 going to flat 7, minor 1 going to flat 7, going to major 4 here. So notice how the movement is not directly to major 4. If you just had B minor going to flat 7, which is a major chord, that wouldn't be enough to let you know that it's a Dorian progression. But like we said before, we have the major 4 where the where the key is in a minor key. That's an indication that it's in Dorian. It's just not typical, right? And here you can do the same thing. Here we're a whole step above. You move up a whole step, B minor pentatonic, boom. And then you start throwing that. And it'd be cool, 3 chords, right? You do your pentatonic stuff over B, over A, and then that major 4. In this case, it's gonna be G sharp, right? But it's the same. If you're thinking positions and shapes, you don't really have to worry at first about like the notes. If you memorize the shapes, know that that's a B and that's a major 6th against it, which in this case is G sharp. That's all you gotta worry about. That's another example. I would check that out. I know there are like backing tracks on YouTube with both the Carlos Santana and the Althea song, and I've sent those to students to practice this stuff. Let's look at an example that I have here, and that would be kind of taking a little step back. Should have done this one before Althea, but we can make it work. And although I said minor scales are very typical, Dorian is not like super rare. You see it all the time. Loud Love by Soundgarden. Here we're in a different key. We're in E Dorian. The parent scale would be D major. And notice, first of all, forget the notes on the 6th string. They're all E. And this one it's a riff. It's not so straightforward. We're not seeing it like we did with the other songs where it was harmony. So here we can look at the individual notes and figure out the scale. That root note, it keeps alternating, so it's a good indication that it's probably in that key, right? We have E to the minor 3rd on the 10th fret. So that's the first part of the riff, right? And that's E to E an octave above, and then G minor 3rd, and then the next one. And that's the playing off of the flat 7 to the 1, and then here, check out this note. That note right there. That 4th fret on the 5th string, that's a C sharp. That's the major 6th. If it was a minor scale, it would be on the 3rd fret. It wouldn't sound as good. Yeah. So we have, right? It's such a badass riff. See. Nope. Playing live streaming, I get a little nervous now. I can't play the riff. But the point is not so much my performance or lack thereof, but it's this E and the C sharp, right? Look at the notes that we're playing. E, G, which is 1 to minor 3rd, D flat 7 to E, C sharp, major 6. And that's what makes that riff sound so damn cool, in my opinion. Again, if you want the tabs for this, you have the scale, which is in the key of A Dorian on top. Then you have Loud Love, and obviously a very famous song underneath that we're going to go over in just a second. Actually, let's go over it now. It's a good, because I'm kind of building up here to the ending. Let's go over the chord progression here. I love teaching this song. And I know maybe it's a little overplayed, but it's a good example of a simple melody on a Dorian progression. So check this out. You have 4 chords. You have B minor. And I have the chord charts here. If you need those, they're also on top for the chords I'm using specifically for this song. It's the only one with chords. So you have B minor, D, F sharp minor to E. Right? So B minor is 1. D major is major 3. F sharp minor is the 5th. And then E. What is that against B minor? It's a major 4th. So see, even it's all switched up, but if you know your key, what key you're in, what the minor 1 chord is, and if you see a major 4 in there, what can we guess? It's Dorian. Now this melody, this is the chorus that I'm going over, and it does something. Look at the notes. It does something interesting. It hits on chord tones every time. It hits on the 3rds. So look at that first chord, B minor. Right? The 3rd is D. The minor 3rd is D. And it starts on that note. That's the 7th fret. And then it goes neighboring tone. And it goes on that F sharp for the 2nd bar. You see the 2nd bar, that 7th fret on the 2nd string? That's an F sharp. It's hitting the major 3rd. Right? And then the next one, it goes on the 2nd string, 7, 9, 10. Right? That A is the minor 3rd of F sharp minor. And here, this is the Dorian, the money part. 7 on the 1st string, 9 on the 2nd string. Boom, G sharp against E. That's a minor 3rd. It's just beautifully landing on thirds. That's what makes this chord progression the melody so catchy. And when sometimes people use that term, it sounds so melodic. This is what I think of it. There's like the melody is following the chords. In this case, it does so beautifully. Thirds every single time. They just sound, our ears just like that sound. So what I like to demonstrate with this is that you should try to incorporate this in your own playing. And like, think about the progression, think about landing on thirds. And here you could do it 2 ways. You could think about this all playing that major 6 or just landing on the 3rd of the chords. And it's going to be Dorian either way. So that's pretty cool, I think. You should, not you should. If you want the chart, again, click the link in the description or in the live chat. The live chat will go away, I think, once this video is like not live later on. So be sure to check that out. And what else we got here? Give me 1 sec. Oh, I think my internet is am I lagging? Hopefully not too much. All right, let's finish this up with a very famous song. But it's such a good example to not bring up. So, Hotel California. The whole thing is not in Dorian. It has Dorian-y things about it. So, what those things might be, it's in the key of B. And let me just go over the chord progression. This I don't have the chart for because it's such a famous song. You can just find it. It's a B, right, to F sharp, major, A major, to E major, G major, to D major. I apologize for the guitar. It gets out of tune a lot. I need to get it set up. And then D major, then E minor, and then back to F sharp minor. I love thinking in Roman numerals. It makes this easy to digest rather than thinking in chords. Key of B, minor 1, right, to major 5th, flat 7th, to major 4. What does that tell you? We've been talking about this the whole time. Dorian, right? And then here we have G, which is the flat 6. So that's why I said it's not completely in Dorian, because this kind of switches back to B minor. So what you could think about this as like modal mixture, and what that means is that we're in B minor and it's just borrowing from another key momentarily, which would be that here. And we'll talk about the major 5th in just a second. We have G, which is just puts us back in B natural minor, and then you have D, which is the minor. The 3rd, the minor 3rd, that'd be a major chord. And then 4 again, but this time it's minor, right? So the first time we had it, it was E major, now it's E minor. Again, establishing that we're in B minor, the 6th mode. And then it ends on F sharp major. Now let's unpack a couple things here about the progression. You have minor 1 going to a major 5th. The Get Lucky song by Daft Punk had a minor 5th, right? So if you're harmonizing the B minor scale, your 5th chord is going to be a minor chord, a minor 7 or minor chord. But what's so common, and this comes from like classical music, it comes from way back when, and everybody does it. Everybody and their mother does this. You raise the 3rd of the 5th chord, which in this case would be G. I'm sorry, not G. It would be from A to A sharp. and then that makes it major. That it has a really strong pull. It's super common. You can, I don't like to overthink of this. It's so common that it's just what it is. Technically, you could think about it as like borrowing from the B harmonic minor scale, because you have the raised seventh, which again is the A sharp, B, A sharp. They're only half step apart. I don't like overthinking it that much, but you could, in music, you can think about a bunch of things in a bunch of different ways. So that's the fifth chord. Then we go to the flat seventh. That's totally normal. That's nothing unusual there. And then you go to E. That's our major fourth. We've been talking about this for every song. Major fourth means we're doing a Dorian thing right now. Obviously, this chord progression is more involved. But here, what would you do? You hit that G sharp over it. Sorry, I missed it. You would hit that G sharp to bring out that Dorian sound. A chord tone sounds super dope. G major. That just puts us back in G minor, because we just think about the chord tone that we hit G sharp outside of the key, and now we're playing a G chord. Right, we went from that to that. And then here we have the minor third chord, D, E minor. It'd be cool here if you hit that third now, but it's a different third. It's a minor third now, which now would be a G. And then back here. A cool tone to hit over the fifth chord would be that the major third of the chord, which is A sharp. It is also you hear that all over the Hotel California solo. Right, I'm just playing the pentatonic scale. Oh, and that was Dorian. Don't make it complicated. Just find those tones. They're always like a half step away from where you are in the pentatonic anyway. So for that 5 chord, you know, just wherever your root note is, it's a half step below that. So you have 3 root notes here in this position in box 1. 6th string, 4th string, 1st string. Wherever you are, it's a half step below that. And then the other chord you have to worry about, or might want to pop out, G sharp, to really bring out that Dorian sound. And again, these are like the next level. I consider them the next level, because you could play pentatonic over this whole thing and it would work and sound just fine. But it's a shame, because there are some notes in the pentatonic scale that you just don't have to bring out that chord progression. It's such a beautiful chord progression that you want to try and bring it out. Nothing crazy. Your notes are always like, think about the raised 6th. If you're playing pentatonic, it's always in the middle. It's like half step away. Then the other one, the raised 7th, it's like 1 half step below your root note. They're not hard to find. You just kind of have to time it and mess around with it. And that's how I like to get into that. So if you have that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know. All my social links are in the description. You could leave I don't know if you could leave a comment after a live stream. If you can, leave it. If not, find me. There are links in the description. Again, one more time, the tabs are in the description if you want to look at the examples. And I think that's it. Next time I'm going to be going over Phrygian. I'm going to go over some examples as well. I love demonstrating musical examples, like actual music. And mostly that I like, rock music more than anything. So you can start to not step away, but like add to your playing. Because honestly, most of the stuff that I do is like pentatonic shit. And what I do on top of that is like, for me, I just think about these like extra notes. Like you have a certain chords. Oh, pentatonic plus like extra notes. That's the way I thought about it. In music, we obviously, I don't think you overthink it in music school. You don't overthink it, but you go about it in different ways, especially when it comes to like, not rock music. But when it comes to playing, I like to keep it simple. I don't want to overwhelm myself, especially my students. I definitely don't like overwhelming them. Sometimes it feels like that when you just start with the modes, like, wait, how do these work? But I think the examples, make them pop out. Practice these over chord progressions. Make your own chord progressions. Now you know that you need a minor 1 chord and a major 4 in there for it to be Dorian. So mess around with some chord progressions and throw in major 4s in there. Cool. I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you.